they started looking for locations. And after looking at a number of possibilities, actually the possibilities were slim, I'll get to that in a minute, focus was on physics and astronomy. Branch library is designated as appropriate. In the summer and early fall of 2013, discussions between eScience and the UW libraries and the College of Arts and Sciences ensued about the options to house the data science studio, and at that time, those folks reached out and engaged the leadership of physics and astronomy to talk about those possibilities. As things ensued, in November of 2013, there were faculty meetings in both physics and astronomy to discuss this. There were graduate students represented at those meetings. There were lots of questions, there were concerns expressed, but in the final analysis, the idea was to go forward should a variety of conditions be met, and I will talk more about that shortly. In January 2014, those 5 groups established a memorandum of understanding establishing governance and operations guidelines for the new data science studio. The representatives there are listed, as you can see. In February 2014, there was a big kickoff event announcing major funding from the Lawrence Loudon Foundations to fund the eScience initiative in this big data initiative. There was other money that came through an IGERT later on, another grant recently announced less than a month ago, approximately a month ago, in support of this effort from the Washington Research Foundation. From January, I believe it was January, it might be a little off on that, but to the present, a working group, including physics and astronomy faculty, representatives, and members from the other units, has been involved in designing the data science studio. That design has been completed on June 13th. The UW branch library will close to start construction. In November 3rd, 2014 is estimate date in which the data science studio will be open. Of course, during that entire time, all space will be closed for construction. Okay, why is a new why we need a new data science studio? Importance. Data science, or oftentimes labeled big data, is a major interdisciplinary research and instruction initiative at the University of Washington. Is a major initiative of Provost Anwar Kausi, and the new data science studio is critical for fulfilling this new initiative. A number of faculty have already been hired across various colleges and departments to work on big data, and so this is an important and centerpiece research and teaching initiative of the university. In terms of reach, data science research and instruction includes faculty, graduate students, and undergraduate students from many colleges, College of Arts and Sciences, Engineering, Medicine, the Environment, the iSchool, and a lot of others, and who will directly benefit from the studio activities and creation of the data science studio. That includes, of course, physics and astronomy faculty, graduate students, and undergraduates, and for my count, at least 11 other departments and centers just in the College of Arts and Sciences alone. As such, the data science studio is likely to have a large impact for a large number of people at the University of Washington. Mission. The studio includes a significant service component to its mission, offering education, software, and career support activities to researchers in data-intensive science across all fields of science and social science. Need. To fulfill this major initiative and carry out this funded research, which the funding is very substantial, I think many of you know, space is required to house the new data science studio. Okay, why was the physics and astronomy branch library selected to house this? First of all, there is no other space on the UW campus to house approximately a 4,000 square foot facility that the new studio would need that is currently available. Space on this campus is extremely tight. The College of Arts and Sciences has 1.2 million square feet, and it's my job to know where all that is allocated. The best I know, I've got like one office here, one office there, one cubbyhole here, one broom closet there available. And that holds for the rest of the campus. Leasing space off campus, of course, is a possibility, but it's very costly, and we've looked for space off campus for other purposes, and the best you can do is almost past I-5 or up on 25th past New Village to find space. And that's simply an appropriate space for a facility that's supposed to create intercollaborative, interdisciplinary research and bring people together. The Physics and Astronomy branch library using UW Library's metrics is underutilized, and in many but not all key areas, utilization has been in decline. It certainly is the case, and we've heard a lot from you folks, that use by undergraduates and graduate students for quiet space is not underutilized. It's heavily utilized, and we recognize that. The primary use of the Physics Astronomy Branch Library by its users, and especially undergraduate students, is as a space, not a collection, and the renovation will increase and improve the space to which they have access, and I'll get to that more clearly in a few minutes. Just some data. There's lots of data. There's lots of data available that the libraries have collected. Students have sent us data. We're inundated with data, but and that's good. Big data, we need it. Physics and Astronomy Library. This is gate access. It just clicks on it. It's from 35,000 down to about 27,000. So that's been a decline, steady decline over the last 10 years. Some more data. This compares the Physics Astronomy Library to the Music Library, the Math Library, the built environments. And not most, but not all of these metrics, Physics Library is less utilized than others. There are some branch libraries that are more underutilized than physics, but these are comparative branch libraries that make sense to compare. One figure I'd point out to here is the seats number 44, which is the library's data point on that. We'll come back to that number shortly. I do want to discuss at some length, not a lot, efforts that have been carried out by the group to accommodate physics and astronomy faculty, graduate student, and undergraduate student needs. First of all, the UW Libraries, they're a fantastic operation. They do great things on this campus. They have and will continue to provide staff and technical support and access to books removed from the branch library. There's a URL here telling you all those things. There's a stack of papers. Where did they end up? Oh, they're being passed around. This being passed around. It was very important, we heard from physics and astronomy faculty, that all efforts be made to preserve the shape and look of the reading room, and the libraries, and the ability of the libraries to control the space when the data science studio ends. We've worked with the architects to try and do as best as we can maintain a reading room, that reading room with all the beautiful windows and beautiful views. It's going to change, but we're trying to maintain that space. And we did work out a memorandum of understanding that whenever the data science studio use ends, that space still belongs to the library, will revert to the library, and it will be up to the library to work with others to figure out how to repurpose the space when this usage by the data science studio comes to an end. We heard loud and clear from a number of faculty, particularly in physics, that they had a great need for a seminar conference room, and we were able to carve out a 45-seat conference room that can be scheduled and will be scheduled. How intensively, we don't know. We're glad to be able to do that. Access to the data science studio for physics and astronomy faculty and graduate students will continue to be provided 24/7. Those individuals who currently have access, and that the gatekeepers for access are the physics and astronomy departments themselves, that will continue. So this getting into the building, getting access to the data science studio, once it's constructed, all those people who have access now will have access when the data science studio is constructed 24/7. Undergraduate students currently have access only to the library part, only during business hours, and we'll continue that practice. What the exact business hours will be is not quite determined yet. Realizing that students value collaboration, and most particularly quiet workplaces to study, we've made substantial efforts to create both types of spaces and have flexibility and access to students, and I'll get to that next. Okay, this is created by the architects. This is the existing area use legend for the 6th floor. The administrative spaces are in gray. Over here, of course, is, there we go. This is administrative space as well as this. These are the stacks, right? These are the current stacks. So in this, I guess I'm going to call it mustard. The mustard color area is where there is public and or shared space. This is where the 44 seats that I enumerated earlier are located in the space, and much of them are, I assume, here in the reading room. Only these areas down here This is pretty much a corridor. Maybe wrong about that. Now I want to go to the next slide, which is the current and almost assuredly the last and final design. There might be some tweaks based on what happens during construction, but this is the way we assume and expect the data science studio to look like. Over here is where the administrative staff support for the data science studio will be housed. In this, call it slate area, is where postdocs, data scientists, and others who are working in the data science studio as part of those set of grants will be housed. This space is their, for many of them, if not most of them, will be their permanent office location. The rest of the areas, and again in the mustard, are open and or shared space. We go and look at that, and look at that. There's a lot more open and shared space in this. Okay. This area over here is going to look like the kind of space you'll see at in the Allen Library first floor in the collaboratory that was created. It also is going to look a lot like parts or segments of the new space created in the first floor of Odegaard. There will be casual areas, it will be open, anyone can walk in, it's whoever's there first sits down. It's not going to be completely quiet. It might be quiet if you're the only person in there at 3 o'clock in the morning, but it will. I walked over to the new first floor collaborative space in Odegaard, and it was full of people. It was full of students. I don't know how many it holds, but there was a lot. And there was casual conversation, but you could walk off to certain places and there would be relatively quiet. Not perfectly quiet, but relatively quiet. This area, and then there's 3 quiet rooms here, this place here, right over here, and then up here. These are closed off, sealed rooms, doors closed. Those are quiet rooms. They're available for all people to use. They will be scheduled. The people who will be doing the scheduling of those rooms and also these 2 larger spaces will be eScience Studio staff, the data science studio staff. There will be, I think, what the plan will be to have an online scheduling tool on the web. Over here is the space that was carved out for that seminar room that I mentioned earlier. It seats about 45 people. It's very valued by physics faculty in particular to hold conferences on. It's not going to be anything that's scheduled on a routine basis like a class. How heavy that is used, we do not know. It's an empirical question that will be determined. We don't expect it to be used all day, but certainly almost every day, some segment of the day will be used. When it's not used, anybody can walk in there and sit down and work and have a quiet space. Over here, what is the old reading room. This is going to be blocked off. I believe it's still with glass wall and doors. I hope we still have that. This is a meeting room that will be scheduled largely for activities for the data science studio. They will have talks, they will have meetings, they will have seminars, they might well have parties at some various times. Again, how often that is used for those events and activities, we're not sure. Again, it's not going to be all day, every day. It might be some of the day, might be not used at any moment in time by anybody for any particular day. When it's not in use, it can be used by anybody. Anyone can walk in there, carve out a spot, sit down, and do their work either in a group or individually. So what we've tried to do is both meet the access needs of faculty, graduate students, and undergraduates, and try and accommodate, within the context of creating a data science studio, a lot of space for collaborative and hopefully quiet space. Can we guarantee that this will be quiet space all the time? No. We can certainly guarantee that these three little areas will be quiet spaces, but they will be scheduled. Okay. Now, we heard loud and clear that one of the key concerns for undergraduates and some graduate students has been that they will lose this quiet space. We recognize that. We recognize how important it is. We all at the institution have a variety of needs that we focus on that meet what we particularly need. So for many of you, you need quiet space to study. Some need more collaborative space. We knew we needed this institution more and better classrooms. We need more and better study space for faculty research, labs, quiet spaces. But there are limited resources at this institution, as I think everybody knows. And in the end of the day, such needs and desires must be balanced against the best interests of all of our students and faculty, and against cost with respect to our education, research, and service missions. And so the evaluation of those involved, and that includes up to our provost, the repurposing of the library for the data science studio, met a greater, was deemed and judged to be providing a better value for more variety, for varied numbers of faculty, graduate students, and undergraduates. Okay, so with that, I'm glad to take questions. Let me say, as is usually the case, we expect the form of a question to emerge at some point in time, and we will provide an opportunity for people to speak for 2 minutes, and then we'll provide answers, and then we'll go to the next question. Does that sound fair? Great. Microphone's down here.
Hi. This on?
It's supposed to be on.
Can people hear me?
No, it doesn't.
Okay. Hi, I'm the Physics Graduate Student Council computer representative, so a few questions pertaining to that. I was wondering, will the eScience Studio be using the same physics astronomy network? If so, will they be utilizing the physics astronomy computer support, staff and resources? And if so, if they're staying true to the name of big data, how will the sort of input and output of large amounts of data be handled and not cause trouble to the normal usage of the network?
Oh, interesting. I didn't expect to have that question. I actually don't know the answer to that. I seriously do not know the answer to that. If there's someone in the audience who does, that would be great, but that's not something that we've discussed. So I apologize.
All right, thank you.
Hi, my name is Dorota Grabowska, and I'm a graduate student here. And just quickly looking at the map, if I count the number of seats that aren't secured, I count about 30. And so my concern is that the postdoc office space, it seems like they're going to be fairly crowded in there.
Yeah.
So if they're allowed access before undergrads, are they allowed to go into the common areas and then further reduce the amount of areas accessible to undergrads?
Yeah. Okay. We counted carefully, and I think overall in this area here, casual area, in these three quiet offices, there are, what was the number? 41 by our count. Okay, so that's just point one. There are 45 and 24, but those I'm not going to add those on directly because those will be scheduled at various times. Certainly the plan is certainly that people who are working in the data science studio, this will be their dedicated space, but they very well will often go off and use this space too. So there will be, and it makes complete sense for them to do so. So that will be, in addition to undergraduates and graduate students coming into the space, the people in there will be a lot of people visiting the data science studio from other departments. This is supposed to be a collaborative space, right? So there'll be other faculty from other departments across the university, other graduate students coming and spending time here. So it will be a crowded space, there's no question about that.
Well, so then, given that, it does seem like it will reduce the access for undergrads and graduate students, because especially for undergrads, since they won't have keys there, they can't get in early. Versus the library right now, if they're in at 10 a.m., there's still plenty of space available. They don't really have to battle anyone for spots. And it seems like even though the intent here is to give room for students, given how this is structured and the sheer amount of postdocs coming in, and as you say, all the collaborative work that'll happen, you do lose space for undergrads. So that's just a comment, not really a question. But my second question is, given the amount of space being taken up on the 6th floor, are there any plans or possibilities of data science flowing into the 5th floor of the building, or having access to those conference rooms? It's already difficult enough to schedule workshops and meetings and things like that in the physics conference rooms. So is there any risk of that happening?
Let me answer your comment, and then there will be more competition for space. But I will say that if you take the gate count numbers, you break them down on a daily average, the number of people going into the library is not very high. Maybe if you take out weekends, and it's probably something in the order of 100 people per day. So it's not huge. Not to denigrate your point, there will be more competition. Secondly, I can say unequivocally, there is no plan or any discussion that there will be any quote-unquote leakage from the 6th floor to the 5th floor. Period. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Denise Schmitz. I'm an undergrad here. I have a couple of questions. First of all, so you mentioned earlier that undergrads will have access to this space during regular business hours. However, right now, the physics and astronomy departments kind of collaboratively with the library also issue keys to undergrads, and many undergrads do take advantage of this opportunity to have keys to the space and are able to access it after hours. Will that continue to be true under the new plan?
Yes. I didn't mention that earlier, I should have, that in talking with the chairs of physics and astronomy, we do know that a number of undergraduates are given that privilege for particular purposes, and that will continue and will be decided by the physics and astronomy faculty, which undergraduate students have access. So yes, that will continue.
Okay.
But I've understood that it's a limited number of undergraduates.
I don't really know what the exact number is. I know I have keys, and pretty much every undergrad I talk to regularly does, but I don't know. I don't know how many have. Anyway, my other question is, what exactly is the level of expectation for the new data science researchers to work with faculty and, I suppose to some extent, students in the physics and astronomy departments? Like, I guess, what proportion of those people's job will be to work specifically with people in physics and astronomy?
My understanding of this whole project and what's the research funded by Morrison Foundations has at least two purposes, and there are others. One is to create new methods to work with big data. But the second one is to collaborate explicitly with people doing science, whether it's oceanography or astronomy, doing web-based searches with Twitter, whatever it is. They are going to be working with and collaborating and helping those scientists know how to do that research effectively and well. And so one of the main points of this whole project is to connect to a whole series of scientists and researchers and graduate students and undergraduate students that are working with big data. There was a poster session at the inaugural kickoff event back in February, and the announcement for posters was called like 2 weeks before the event. There were over 100-some posters, and they came from all across the university. And they came from faculty, graduate students, and undergraduate students. It was really cool. It was amazing. So yes.
As a follow-up to that, do you think you'd be able to estimate like some quantitative metric of how much of that would be happening?
No, I don't think we can. At this point in time, we'll see. The expectation is that it's going to be quite high and collaborative. We'll see. What we do know is just from that poster session, we know that there is a huge interest and demand for this across the institution. And as I say, it's wide and deep. So we expect a lot of people to be involved in this. Whether I can't give you a particular metric at this point in time. But also, I assume that they'll be keeping track of those things to the extent that they can.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Gordon. I'm a professor here in the physics department. So first, I really like the idea of the eScience Institute. I have direct collaborators that are on this grant at NYU. However, I think the way you've set this up, you're really, so for example, you were talking about 18 permanent researchers in that blue area. You've packed 4 per desk. At my research laboratory, where we're incredibly oversubscribed for space, we would never do that. These people are going to be out into the main area with these 44 seats, I think, quite a bit. And I think if you count those 44 seats minus all the collaborations and the people coming through, there'll be very little left over for the undergraduates and graduate students in our department. The physics department here, I believe, has the largest undergraduate majors program in the United States. We have the largest number. This library is currently their only place to really, that they can call their own, unless they happen to be a member of the Society of Physics Students, and that's a fairly small, very small area. And I suspect during most of the main working hours, where there are lots of people coming through, because I think your predictions are correct, eScience is going to be quite successful, and a lot of people are looking to use those tools, there will be almost no free places for them to sit in small groups and work together. And I think somehow this has to get addressed for the good of our undergraduate program.
I understand that concern, and I think, first of all, I think it is an empirical question what happens, and we'll see. And I don't, your prediction may be correct, I don't know.
You want this to be successful.
Yes, yes, and we want to continue to have student access. I guess I'm going to say this, and I know that I'm going to cringe when I say it, but I am going to say it. There is lots of also underutilized quiet space and collaborative space in the university. The branches and the libraries have lots of quiet space. It's not convenient like the current space. I was talking with the divisional dean for facilities in engineering, and that engineering library basically is a tomb. There's nobody in there. That's a long way away. So, I mean, yes, there may have to be some adjustments, but I do understand this is an important resource for the undergraduate students, and we are making some compromises. There's no question we're going to replicate it exactly.
Hi, my name is Shayda, and I'm a physics graduate student. I have a question about the reserved spaces, the seminar rooms, and the room looking towards mountain areas.
These two.
So how are how are we going to have reserve those rooms? Are there going to be restrictions who can reserve that room, or are there going to be restrictions like all of the seminar rooms in the physics department should be not available, and then you can go to that room kind of things, or are there going to be a bias like towards the eScience studio people before the physics people? Is there any idea of how that's going to happen? Or even undergrads, would they be able to use those rooms at all?
So, let me go back. So, there isn't going to be a bias. I mean, the scheduling of this room, oops, scheduling of this room, which has 45 seats and is more in a traditional seminar setting, there will be overhead projectors, at least one, maybe two, I can't remember. As I said, that's not going to be scheduled. There will be an online scheduling service. I don't think, in my understanding, that the group that will govern the space and operations we did not, as I recall, establish any kind of pecking order. There will be an online, who exactly can schedule the room? We also didn't talk about that, but presumably it's going to be faculty that will be scheduling that space. And if there is a graduate student event, they can certainly request the space, and I think that will be given, you know, fine thumbs up. It won't, you can't, in other words, I think it would be, basically if there's a good reason to reserve that space for some kind of a seminar or meeting, that will be supported. What you can't do is come in and go, I want quiet spaces, so I want to reserve the room for quiet space. Okay? Does that make sense?
Hi, my name is David. I'm a graduate student. I guess I just wanted to express my sense of loss, that we're going to be losing a library, that we're going to be losing this quiet space, and I wonder to what extent is this sort of an excuse to spend money that we've got for this idea of collaboration. I don't quite see what it is about a library that will prevent us from collaborating or accessing Twitter or accessing data that we need to spend all this money to get rid of the library and do all these renovations in order to facilitate some sort of collaboration. It seems like this could be done while retaining the library space, the quiet space that we all use. And so I guess I just wanted to voice this concern, and I wonder, is this really necessary? And to what extent is this sort of like a fashion trend that we're trying to,
Well, I don't think we're wasting money. The money for the renovations coming from grants. And I don't know, I'm not an architect, but I've been in my job for over 4 years, and we've done lots of remodels and new construction. And the data science studio, they had a vision of what this would look like and how it would work for them functionally. And so that was the main driver. And you can't take the library with its existing stacks and existing space and provide the functionality for the data science studio. So what we had to do is try and do two things as best we could, and we're not maybe not as successful as we'd like to be or you'd like us to be, but we have to create the right functional space for the data science studio, as well as create and maintain as much open access space for everybody else as we could. Now that's not an easy thing to do, but you could not build a data science studio that would meet the functional needs of those people by just maintaining the branch library as it exists.
I guess data science studio does sound pretty sexy, but I just don't see. We've got tables and a sofa and some chairs, and it seems like, yeah, okay, the stacks take up some space, and so, but
stacks take up that space. All that space.
Okay.
Right? Okay.
But it's nice to have library books next to you while you're, studying.
Right. And we could go back to the data, but in terms of circulation of books and materials, and the library is going down to near zero. That's just not what people are using it for. Okay. I completely understand that you've got some nice thing that you find useful, and when it disappears, it's painful. Well, I understand that. We all understand that. But again, you have to make trade-offs. What's for the good for the greater number of people and the institution meeting its research, teaching, and service missions. That was what drove this decision-making. And that's why the provost is supportive. I understand why you're not. And I understand that. Right?
Microphone. Hi, my name is Christopher Jancy. I'm the president of the Society of Physics Students. My main concern is actually for the undergraduates, because I've heard great things for staff and I've heard great things for graduates, but
can you squeeze through?
I guess my first question is this: those joint spaces, those communal spaces, all right? So the data science studio staff, they have precedence over there, right? It's their space. So
No.
what, no. Okay. So
this space up here.
Make sure you're talking about the same spaces, because I don't think
This space right here is open to, whoever gets there first gets access to it.
Right, and the joint spaces that
These three quiet rooms, here, here, and here, again, will be scheduled. And if you schedule it, it's yours.
We're talking about different spaces then. I'm speaking about the two big ones.
Oh, sorry, okay.
Okay. Because the little ones are great, don't be wrong, and I love the idea of lots of study space, and the little ones have tons of room for 4 or 2 people, which is great for 4 or 2 people. But for the larger areas, if, say, we have an undergraduate meeting of, I'm going to throw this out there, the Society of Physics students, and a member of the data science studio wants to use that space, and though they don't have it scheduled, how likely are we to be kicked out, or any other group who's in there because the data science studio people want to use it?
We're talking about this space.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to use that space,
and the other one.
For the undergraduate students, if they have a meeting for whatever, you can schedule it. And you can get on the schedule. Just like physics faculty can get on the schedule.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that's, I was asked that question before. And you know, so if these data science studio people want to schedule that space for their event, and you know, they look 3 weeks in advance and they schedule it, well, it's scheduled just like you could schedule it for undergraduate students.
So if nobody's scheduled, then it's just whoever's in there gets
It's not scheduled. If it's not scheduled, so here's the day. You look at the schedule, and there's an event from 12 to 5, but there's not an event from 9 to 12.
Okay.
But when it comes to 12 o'clock, then you're going to get booted.
Well, I understand. That's how the conference room is set on the 4th floor now. Since it is a multidisciplinary space, the Data Science Studios is a bunch of people. Who's ultimately responsible for the space? Is it a committee? Is it a separate department? Is it a chair of a department? And who staffs that space? For what disciplines?
So this comes out in the memorandum of understanding. So the library still owns the space.
Okay.
The way the memorandum of understanding works is the Data Science Studio staff will manage the space, be responsible for it. But physics department will maintain the building, be responsible for maintaining the building. So, well, you know, it's access to the building, facilities, heating, you know, things that go wrong, lighting, etc., will be maintained by the physics, because they know the building.
I understand that.
The management of the space itself on a daily basis will be managed by the staff of the Data Science Studio.
My question was, who are the staff? Are they from, say, the physics department? Are they CS department?
They will be hired. I don't know. The staff will be professional staff. They will be administrative staff, and they will be hired out of the grants. And I don't know where they will come from. I have no idea.
Okay. And so the researchers are the same way. It's not a specific discipline that's getting priority or anything.
The researchers, I think that's a decision that the data science studio people will have to. You know, what kind of postdocs they hire, what kind of data scientists, what's their expertise, I don't know, but it will be certainly multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary.
Okay, and one last question, sorry for tossing something out there. Was there an effort made to speak with, say, the undergraduates, get their input on this? I understand we don't exactly get a say over everything that happens at the college, but we are a large number of people who go to the college. Why was there no effort made to get a hold of the undergraduates and ask their opinion and get their input to maybe make this space improved? And will their input be taken later as it's in use to try and improve the space?
Yes, and no, the answer to did we solicit undergraduate input? No, we did not. Could we have done that? Might have been a good idea to do that. I think perhaps yes. I will say, and certainly when the institution builds spaces that are really student-directed, like athletics facilities and the student union building, etc., that they do solicit student input. Student input was solicited by the libraries in the past and has been. For an academic research space that's being repurposed and remodeled, in my experience, the answer is we have not talked to undergraduate students, and I think largely that's probably correct. This might have been a case where we might have wanted to do so. In terms of input, we have this governing body that has representation from the 5 units that discussed. And certainly, student input should go through the regular channels through their representatives and their elected officials, who can then pass it along to faculty and department chairs and or data science staff. And part of the governance and operations, the responsibilities of that group is to talk about issues, problems, concerns, usage as we move forward. And so we'll certainly solicit that and listen to it.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Paul. My name is Paul. I'm an undergrad in the physics department. Two quick questions. First, the room in the bottom left is a little unfortunately positioned behind a field of blue. Do you expect any problems there? No?
Well,
both on the bottom are only accessible.
No, the one on the right has a small hole. Oh, you have to go into it, don't you?
Yeah, open areas.
so, yeah, I understand your concern, and the answer is you can schedule those rooms. And it's not going to be the case that, and if it turns out that the people in this space say, no, you can't walk through there, you can't walk through there, we'll correct that. Okay. I will say that this design went through many iterations, and it was a challenge. And I want to say that the faculty, representatives from the physics department and the astronomy department on this team that built this design deserve a lot of credit to really pushing to help make a space that met the needs of the faculty and students of the two departments. And I also will say I appreciate the ability of the architects to actually save those 3 quiet spaces. We almost lost at least one, but we were able to save all of them. And part of that is because we had to tinker with the design. It's not perfect. Not perfect.
And the second question is, if we're trying to reach a compromise between undergraduate use of the space as a study space and the new collaborative space, would it be possible to, say, guarantee a reservation for undergraduates? The large meeting room on the left there, it seems like a good space for, say, both group and self-study. Could we guarantee, say, a 1 hour or 2 hour slot during peak study hours, which I understand is around lunchtime? Would that be reasonable?
I can't answer for the group,
Sure.
but what I can say is you ought to go through your representatives and make such a request, and we'll see how it shakes out.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name's Mike. I'm a graduate student. I have just a couple questions, but they'll be quick. So the first was basically answered there, but I want to just confirm, will there be any secured areas that students won't be able to walk through? Or will they be able to get through those blue areas?
So currently this is effectively a completely open design. So if you're allowed access during regular hours, which you are, and also off hours, which I presume you are, since essentially all graduate students are bad at something that, you can wander anywhere in here. Now that does present some issues that we've talked about, because there are some security issues. Security in the sense of there's going to be expensive stuff lying around. But we've erred on the side of access, recognizing that we may have to install security cameras. But currently, I don't believe that's part of the plan. But you will have access to what we're doing.
Okay. Then for the non-blue, non-reserved rooms, the space in the middle, is there going to be any pecking order for being able to use that space? If a group of undergrads are studying at a table, the 6th floor is pretty full that day, and a group of data science postdocs really need somewhere to sit down to hammer out whatever they hammer out, will they be able to kick out undergrads who are studying there?
My understanding is currently the answer is no. If you come in during regular off hours as an undergraduate student, you sit down at one of those spots. If you want to sit there all day, if you're sleeping, someone might go, No, you're not. I could use that space and you're not exactly using it. So, no, there's no pecking order.
And then as far as library utilization goes, you mentioned that there are other underutilized libraries on campus, like you call the engineering library at Toom. So I was wondering if there were, what additional metrics went into deciding that the physics library was the underutilized one that you were going to pick?
There are a number of, I had a number of metrics earlier on another slide that point to declines in utilization across a whole bunch of indicators.
Right, but all of the libraries save 2 on the website are
right. And there are, you know, and I'm not a person in UW library, so I don't think I'm appropriate to answer that question as to how they evaluate. I do know that there are not plans, and Cynthia, tell me if I'm wrong, to close any other current branch libraries. You know, part of this has to do with that space and configuration of that space, and how it works. It's not only that the physics and astronomy library is underutilized, others are, but it's that space and how it's configured and how it meets the requirements of the data science studio compared to some other spaces which are underutilized too, but are not as well configured.
So one thing that I've heard about the physics building from my undergrad friends who are constantly trying to register for classes as quickly as possible is that the physics building has very fast internet. Was that in any way one of the metrics that you considered?
I don't know. It could well have been. I don't think it was so that this is for undergraduate students to register, but the connectivity of that space, I don't know. I don't know.
Right, so that harkens back to the earlier question of whether the big data is going to be coming through the same sort of pipelines, whether we would expect to see slowdowns. And I know you said you don't have an answer to that, but I just wanted to reiterate that once you learn an answer to that, it would be great to hear one.
Sure. Yeah, I think that it is up to the, if performance over the physics and astronomy buildings declines because of heavy usage, it's up to the institution to take care of that and fix it.
And then the last thing that I want to ask about is just as far as maintenance of the space and the building go. So as a graduate student, I pay fees, hundreds of dollars every quarter to go towards building maintenance. If it turns out in practice that this space is very full with researchers who aren't just sitting forward to a desk there, and students don't really have access to the space in practice, are we still going to have to keep paying fees for maintaining the space and cleaning the toilets?
So I'm a political scientist by trade, so the stock response to that question is, the answer is yes. And it's sort of like when you pay your taxes to the federal government, you don't pay them just for, you know, the little services around the corner that you use, you pay them for all the services. And so building fees go into building fees for the entire campus, right? Whether you use the facility or not. So the answer is, yeah, you're going to keep paying your fees.
All right, I'll keep paying my taxes too, guys.
I do, unfortunately. Yeah, we've got 7 more minutes, so I don't know if we're going to get all the way through everybody. I apologize.
Yeah, so my question was kind of covered by his, but we saw this metric of the gate count going down, but that really doesn't mean anything in isolation. Because I pulled up the charts here that are available on the library website through 2010, and it shows the gate counts are going down everywhere, just as much as physics is. And so it'd be helpful, at least to, instead of showing us metrics in isolation, show us a metric that is actually a comparison.
The libraries have all the metrics you want if you want to have those data. Actually, the students that organized the Change.org petition, they downloaded all the data, and it shows, particularly in some of the key libraries, that the decline in gate counts is much less than physics. But we can get that data for you. This is the person who talked to it.
What is gate count, may I just ask?
So there's electronic gate as you walk into the physics and astronomy librarian, it clicks, counts you, right?
Hello, my name is Jason. I'm a UNI master's student in physics. My question was, is there any plan after the 5-year period ends? Like, is there a metric for saying, okay, the data studio is successful and we're going to keep using this space, or is it just turning into a ghost town at the end of 5 years? What happens at the end of 5 years?
So the vast majority of the funding supporting this is for a 5-year term, but it can be renewed. My understanding is it could be renewed for another 5 years.
Is all the funding necessary to be renewed, possibly renewed?
Not necessarily. Right. Not necessarily. I think the data science studio will, how effective it is will be evaluated on a number of criteria. And it won't just be funding, but it will be also, without the funding, those data scientists and postdocs are going to disappear. Sure. Right? That's how they're paid. But it's going to be based on as any center. There are many centers and programs on campus. There are hundreds. And many of them have valuable space. And they're evaluated based on how much they push forward the research, teaching, service missions of the institution.
Okay. And at the end of this 5-year period, if the data studio is as successful as you hope it is, or is there a contingency for the blue space to leak into the yellow space?
Not as currently funded.
Okay. Sorry. Thanks.
I would never want to try and predict that 5 years.
Someone else will be. Thanks.
Hi, Kieran Morshead, Vice President of the Society of Physics Students. Just 2 quick questions. As sort of unofficial representatives of the undergraduate physics student body, the main concern that we have had is not with the repurpose of the space, or that we have heard is not with the repurpose of the space or the potential for loss of books or anything like that, so much as extreme concern and dissatisfaction over the lack of information. We, as the undergraduate body, first found out about the library closure with signs that were posted apropos of nothing informing us of a library closure. Further information has been sought out by third parties, and while we do appreciate this information session, and it's been very helpful so far, it's also 10 days before the closure of the library. We'd be very interested in making sure there are informational channels open to the undergraduate student body in the future, given that this affects us so profoundly. What steps are being taken to make sure that happens?
As I said before, I think we should provide more information in a timely manner to the undergraduate students and understand that and appreciate the concern. And I think what I would recommend as we move forward in this process is that we work with your representatives, both undergraduate student representatives and graduate student representatives, and have meetings and then get information, concerns about what information you need to have, and get those individuals whose responsibility it is to talk to chairs and faculty, and also to send information to this governing and operations board. So that's the way I think things should progress from here forward.
We did. We were informed that they had not received the information yet either.
As I said at the very beginning, my understanding was, and I confirmed this with both the chairs of physics and astronomy, that at the faculty meetings, their graduate student representatives were present when this was presented to the faculty.
All right.
So, we're under the assumption that they will pass that on to their peers, which may or may not happen.
That indicates a couple of flaws in our channels. And the other question, really quickly, this project is obviously designed so that the impact on undergraduate study space is minimal, and while that's admirable, there are no guarantees that that will actually be the case. If it turns out that the impact on the undergraduate student use of the space is considerably more negative than was anticipated, do we have any assurance that any efforts will be made to correct that in redesign of the space, or is it the same until the 5 years are up, no matter how things go?
I don't think we're going to be able to redesign the space. There won't be resources for that. But certainly if we discover, I'm not sure how we measure that, the impact is more extensive than maybe assume. Assume we can measure that somehow. There certainly, I think, everyone would be open to think about considerations about adjusting how we allocate, not allocate that space, but in terms of access. We'll see how that plays out. But I can't really guarantee or provide any kind of assurance of that.
Thank you.
Okay, so my name is Kristen, and I'm a graduate student in astronomy. And well, first I just want to look at the trend that has been happening here and say, express my support of this. I think it's a really great idea. I think, I've talked with faculty in our department about how this is, going to bring in a lot of great researchers, and having, more knowledge available to people will never be a bad thing, right? And I think that you've done as much as you can to keep this a nice open space that people can still use. And so, I think that, I go up there and study sometimes, and I find that it's not like there's a ton of open space right now. Right? And so I think even removing the bookshelf is going to make it better, in my opinion. So one question that I would like to ask is, so it's my understanding that because of how underutilized this library has been, if there wasn't the funding from eScience, that it would probably be closed anyways. Do you have any comments on that? If no one's going to fund this in the future, that this space wouldn't necessarily still be available to people solely in physics, astronomy, which, in my opinion, would be worse, right? At least now we're still keeping control of this space for at least another 5 years.
There was an effort to close the library 4 or 5 years ago, 2009. The libraries pushed that because of the underutilization. It's costly for the libraries to run the space, right? It costs them money, and they're under budget constraints. But that didn't happen at that time. I don't know if the library had any plan at all to close the library if there wasn't a push for it to be repurposed at this point in time. I do know, I think I'm not speaking correctly, Blaine, that from the faculty perspective, physics and astronomy faculty perspective, as I think I mentioned earlier, they were very concerned about what happens to this space and who controls the space if and when the data science studio disappears. And the answer, as I said, is, it doesn't go to the College of Engineering, it goes back to the libraries, and then it's up to the leadership of the institution to figure out what to do with that space. And ideas from physics and astronomy for how to utilize that space will be given. They're due here.
But I guess I'd like to stress that I think it's a positive thing that for the next 5 years it stays in the control of physics and astronomy.
Hi, I'm Michael. I'm a graduate student.
One more here, please. I have important information. So, please continue.
Okay.
Please.
I'm a graduate student in astronomy, and again,
I
Kristen, I'd like to express the fact that I do think this is a very good positive change. The one thing I want to point out is the similarity in the idea that this library is being underutilized and the fact that it represents a quiet space for studying currently. So the idea of underutilization means that the number of people going through the gate is a lot lower than expected for a library of this current size, right? And that is the reason why it is currently being utilized as a quiet study space, not its intended purpose, and certainly not the reason why the library of UW is spending money keeping it running. So this repurposing of the library will actually allow the space to be utilized to its full extent, because currently it is not. Now, one thing I just wanted to know, do you have numbers specifically? So you said about 100 gates or whatever, so 100 people entering per day approximately?
What I calculated on a 365-day number came to 75, but
Okay. Is there estimates for what should be approximately expected for a library this size? I don't know if that's...
Yes, I have the number. It's for the past month it's been 150.
Excuse me.
No. The past month has been 150.
There's a line.
150 people visit every day during opening hours, and the library refused to give us the figure, so we took the count ourselves. Please continue. That's the number you want.
On the order of 100, I'm an astronomer.
Why don't we have this one?
Sorry,
everybody.
No, that's not a big deal. Thanks for interrupting.
Sorry, this is it. We're already past time.
All right. Okay.
If you want to yield to any one person, you can, but this is the last one.
All right. I just wanted to sort of echo what Michael and Kristen both said. I use the library every day, or basically every weekday. I've never seen there be competition for space the way it currently is, and the way that the floor plan has indicated. I mean, the transition will show clear. So that there will be more open space, better utilized. And I think the most important point here is that there's going to be more science being done in our building. It's going to bring both prestige and more money into our departments. So I'm just throwing my support behind this science. All right, thank you.
Okay, folks, we're past time. I appreciate it. I'm sorry that